Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Inspired Messenger Show. I am your host, Mark Porteous. This series is designed to inspire, educate, and motivate you to recognize and share your own unique divine gifts with the world. We share a lot of different information, from resources and information to steps that you can actually take yourself to improve your personal and professional life. And I feel so blessed to work with amazing mentors and teachers who are aligned with my mission to empower inspired messengers with the tools and support they need to thrive in their purpose of transforming lives. And it's such an honor for me to introduce my mentors and colleagues to you. I truly believe that we all have a special message, including you. And if you're inspired to share your message professionally as an author, speaker, mentor, coach, or healer, we're here to support you. That's why the Inspired Messengers Network was created. We're a collaborative community of visionary thought leaders, change agents that are working together to improve lives. So be sure to sign up for our free membership at inspiredmensengersnetwork.com to access valuable resources to help you on your mission. So please also like us on Facebook at facebook.com/inspired messengers. And remember that we're here to support you. So if you're listening to this call live, you can just post in the chat box, and I'll be checking on those questions. We go forward those to our guests. If you're listening to the replay, feel free to post right below the video, post any questions or comments you have, and we'll make sure to reply as well. And one of the most important lessons that I've learned about being a messenger is self-care. You're probably familiar with the oxygen mask analogy of being in an airplane. They say, make sure to put the oxygen mask on yourself first, or you won't even be conscious to take care of your children. I feel the same way, whether it's in life or business, that if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't really help take care of others. The healthier you are, the better that you can take care of your family and your tribe, whoever it is that you're here to serve. During the first 2 years of my business, I gained over 20 pounds, and I wasn't feeling good physically or emotionally. Today, we're going to learn why weight is more of a symptom than the actual root problem, and how using food can help increase energy and productivity. It can also decrease blood pressure, cholesterol, help with sleep, digestion, inflammation, and of course weight loss, especially in those troublesome areas like the tummy. So I got a lot of experience in that myself, and I'm looking forward to sharing it. Our guests will show you how to get rid of your fat clothes for good. And that's something I'm very excited about. So our guest is Rebecca Walker. She's has an MBA and is the managing partner at My Accelerated Weight Loss and Cambiati Wellness Programs. The fit and healthy life coach knows firsthand what it's like to take on food cravings. Her father's untimely and preventable death inspired her to help people change their eating habits, lose weight, and improve their health. As a recovered sugar addict, Rebecca knows how hard it is to stay on track and loves helping people to understand how to change their relationship with food. We're going to talk a lot about that, your relationship with food. Her philosophy on healthy living is based on progress, not perfection. Another important factor for me. This includes chocolate and wine. Hello, Rebecca. Welcome.
Hi, Mark. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm really, really glad that you're here, and excited to hear a lot more about the program and how your program is a lot different than other weight loss programs and just even general wellness. Before we get started, do you want to share a little bit more about, and we touched on it a little bit, can you tell us a little bit about your story and how you became a weight loss coach?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was similar to you, where I once gained 30 pounds in 30 days. So that's an incredible amount of weight. I am 5'2", so it's a lot of weight and just really fast. And the worst part wasn't so much just the weight. I just felt awful. I was having really bad digestive issues. I had so much less energy, and I just didn't feel like myself. I didn't feel like I could move like myself, and I literally started hiding. I wouldn't go places. I have no pictures of that time in my life for very good reason. But part of it was I just wasn't even interacting with people. So it was really profoundly impacting my life. But the big wake-up call for me was my dad died of a heart attack at 55, very unexpectedly. And it made me think that if I didn't make the big changes in my health that I needed to make, that I was going to die that same death. And so I really looked at how I was interacting with food, and I knew I needed to make changes, but I didn't know how to do it. And I was very fortunate to partner with someone who was a nutritionist who really showed me the way and showed me how to be different with my food and still live my life. And I'm happy to say I have been at my target weight for many years now. And the more exciting thing for me is that my whole family has changed the way they eat. And I don't feel like, I don't fear that I'm going to die that same death that my dad did. And I don't fear that for my family. And that was the most important thing for me, and is a big part of why I do what I do.
Beautiful. And it's interesting that you bring up family, because that, for me, that's my big why. And part of my being is trying to set an example and being a role model, because people mimic what we do. And I feel like that's a big help for me, for my kids, and setting a good example with them.
Yeah, absolutely. My sister just had a brand new, he's just over a year old. So my nephew is adorable, and I've gotten so much joy out of being in his life and being that role model, maybe teaching him a few bad habits along the way. But we've had so much fun also with food and seeing what he does with it, and really focusing on making sure that he's getting everything he needs from that perspective. And then, of course, from us being loving and trouble causing.
Yeah, that's such a great story. Again, you're talking about your nephew, and it's funny how people look up to us and you don't even realize what an effect you have until later on. And so being able to start at such a young age, that's a beautiful influence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, we're going to talk about some of your wellness plans, and specifically, I'm on one of your 30-day cleanse. It's very exciting for me because it's been 10 days, and the first week I lost 7 pounds, and now it's been just a little over 3 pounds, so a little over 10 pounds in 10 days. That's nice. Really fun. But for me, it's not just about the weight, and that's one of the things you focus on, is that the weight is just kind of a symptom. But it's more about the increased energy that I have, not just throughout the day, but into the night, where I still have a very clear head. A lot of my work has to be done after my kids go to bed. And usually by then I just want to shut down. And now I can keep going. And not only then, when I get to sleep, it's a very, very full, restful sleep. So I wake up feeling much more refreshed.
Nice.
But the first thing I want to ask about, well, there's two things. One is that you don't refer to it as a diet, because a lot of people think of diets as something you do short term, and whatever we're eating is a diet.
Yeah.
The other thing is that the idea about losing 10 pounds in 10 days, that I assumed that's water weight, because that's, again, we have all these old things that we learn from professionals, and don't always necessarily be true. So we'll talk a little bit about where that weight loss is coming from and some of the other effects. But talk to me a little bit about, again, we don't call it a diet. You have a lot of other terms for it. You don't like that word diet.
Yeah, I don't. It's a lifestyle change, and it's really, a healthy eating program. Yeah.
And it's not rigid. Like, that's another thing that I really enjoy about it, was that, last Sunday or Saturday night, I fell off the wagon and I shared a bottle of wine with my wife. And then next morning I woke up and had a half a bagel with lox and cream cheese. And, and then I started beating myself up, and I said, oh wait, she said I had 80%. I had to stick at least 80% and had a little bit of flexibility in there, and got right back on the track without beating myself up.
Yeah. A big part of it is letting that go, because we do spend so much time and energy on beating ourselves up, when really there are things that can be going on that may be affecting your food choices that aren't even connected to what you think. Like you mentioned brain fog, and brain fog is commonly connected to candida, and candida can cause you to crave or eat especially sugary foods or simple carbs. And so literally you might have a parasite that's causing that. And it's one of the things that we assess in the program, because it's not just about what we're putting in our bodies. It's also about, you mentioned like the sleep. Your ability to sleep impacts whether you are likely to have high glycemic food choices the next day. And so it's all really connected, and it's important to look at it as your lifestyle, and not just what you're putting in your body from a food perspective.
Mm. Well, there's so much information that we want to cover today. We do have a free gift for anybody who's watching. You can just click the button down below, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. Or if you're listening to the audio, you can go to inspiredmessengersnetwork.com/healthy. And again, we'll talk about the book. But I want to get to kind of the base of this eating plan is something called Paleo.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit about Paleo, what that means, and why that's important for your plan.
Yeah, so we're a modified paleo. We practice what's called a paleo blueprint. And that means that we're actually following the trends of the Paleolithic era. And some of the trends that you'll see of that time are that it was really great quality protein, healthy fat, and low carb. One of the things that we know is that in the Paleolithic era, there were lots of different types of diets. And so people need to find their own specific biochemistry needs and really fit their program to that. So one of the things we teach about is how people can actually understand their specific unique needs. You know, are there things that potentially they are, for example, intolerant to? Are there things that their body just does better with, that they find that they're really successful using? And so we use a foundation is the Paleo blueprint. And then from there, we let people really discover their own unique needs. And we teach that. It's actually a skill. And so we teach that in our program. And there are lots of different paleo programs out there. Ours is a little bit unique in the way that we approach things. And as I said, we're modified, but we like the basic trends of what that program has to offer. And it gives our clients really good results from a health perspective and, of course, from a weight loss perspective.
And like I said, it's about having that energy, that clarity. These are some of the added benefits. But what you were just saying about being able to modify for what your needs are, I think that's another really important thing. In my business, I spent tens of thousands of dollars on all these learning on how to do business stuff. And I found that a lot of things that other people worked for them weren't working for me. And it's the same thing with your diet. Our bodies are so unique that we need to figure out what works for us. And as we're learning that about our bodies, we're also learning to take care of ourselves and to really discover ourselves and learn how to know what works for us.
Yeah. So, you know, my background is I'm a life coach. So I'm a really big believer in self-care. And that's a critical component of what we do. Self-care is absolutely the pinnacle. And one expression of that is what you do with your food. And we like to see it get married together. And it's so important for our businesses. And it's so important. I see so many entrepreneurs start their businesses and then really start to struggle because they neglect themselves, they neglect their health. And I have a lot of entrepreneurs coming to me, and because they're like, I started my business and I gained, 10, 20, 30 or more pounds. And we want to help people run their businesses successfully, have the energy that they want to run their businesses, and then also really be able to have a little bit more balance that's realistic in an entrepreneur's life.
Yeah, and that's really, really important for me because, again, I've got 5-year-old twins, and my business started just 2 years after they were born. And so trying to juggle those two things together, it took a lot of time. And having a balanced life, I think, is a very crucial part of being successful as a whole.
Yeah. Wow. Twins and a business. That's amazing, Mark.
Well, and I'm glad you said that because really just having one child can be enough. And so, I mean, just as a parent, this is another wonderful way to really balance your lifestyle and set those good examples and have the energy just to keep up with one child. So if you're a stay-at-home parent or even just a working parent, this is another great thing to help you optimize your ability to parent.
Yeah, and I mean, when you talk about kids, I think it's really important to start them off on a really good footing with their food and to set that example, because that's the time when they're developing so much, and really taking care of them from the perspective of what they're doing with food is so critically important for their development and their ability to feel really good. I will tell you part of my story that I didn't mention is I used to be sick all the time. I was sick at least a week out of every month, just any flu, cold, whatever, it was landing on me. And I just could have thought it was normal. I didn't know that anything could be different. And when I changed my eating habits, I stopped being sick. I mean, it's amazing. I haven't been sick in so long that I can't remember the last time. And that's really exciting as well. And I think, especially kids are exposed to so much.
Right. Yeah. And let's talk a little bit more about that and how that's affected by this eating plan. With paleo, it's a kind of cleansing your body of some of it's not just calories, or it's not just sugar. You talk about bacteria and all these different things that affect us. What is it about the paleo diet? Well, first of all, a little bit more about what's included in that. What did you said? It's what cavemen ate.
Yeah.
Tell us what that might include.
So it's going to include things like organic, beautiful proteins. We like free range. We think that's really important for the omega profile. Healthy fats, really important and often skipped. And it's finding out what the right portions and proportions to other things on your plate are. And then, of course, we really want to see lots of non-starchy vegetables filling your plate, lots of color, things like that. That's really an ideal plate in our world. And one of the things that we really strive for is when you're building a meal, our goal is to balance hunger hormones. So you should never feel hungry on our program. And that's one of the beautiful things about it is we always say you can lose weight without starving yourself. And I think that's critically important. But it turns out when you're balancing those hunger hormones, you're also balancing all kinds of other hormones in the body. So for women who are experiencing perimenopause issues, they find that actually goes away as well. But ultimately, our goal is to balance your hunger hormones so that you stay full. Yeah.
Well, and that's very interesting because I know for the first couple of days I was feeling especially hungry in the evenings. One of the things is not eating after 7 or whatever that time frame set up, and I'm used to being able to snack at that point. I think it was more of a habit, and once I kind of got out of the habit, it's really I feel full all day. I don't even get hungry at night. How is it that you said that there's hunger hormones?
Yeah, so there are hunger hormones. In particular, we're addressing ghrelin, leptin, and acetylcholine. And you make a great point because there are two things at work here, right? The first thing is that you have habits, things that you just do all of the time. And it's a cue typically of just time is a typical one. We like the evening eating is typically just a cue of time frame. You normally do that. And there's also the component of getting those hunger hormones back in balance. So I have a client who came into me yesterday, and he's an interesting case because he said, I don't get hunger signals. I go all day and I don't eat. But then he binges on things like, brownies and things that are really not serving him. And what we talked about is, we need to get back his hunger and satiety signals. And that's the same for our clients. Some of our clients will come to us and say the opposite. I feel hungry all the time. And they are, but it's just about getting those hunger hormones back in balance. And once you do that, then all of a sudden they'll feel full. And it's also about, we talked about the individuality. So part of it is understanding what that individual client really needs, because each person's going to be a little bit different. We might adjust protein for one client or adjust a healthy fat for another. So it really is dependent on goals and their specific biochemistry. And so those are the components that we're actually looking at when we're trying to get someone feeling really full and comfortable, and then also breaking some of the habits, which is why our program is the 28-day program, because that's the time that it takes to develop a new habit.
You mentioned a couple of things there. One of them talking about being able to address certain areas. So one of the most common areas, I think, especially for women, but I'm in there too, is getting it in the belly and feeling bloated. And I talked earlier about how when I saw myself losing 7 pounds in 7 days, I figured, oh, it must just be because I'm not eating all the salt that I was, so I'm having the water retention. But you addressed that with me as well. Talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you said something earlier, which is I really liked, which is a calorie is not just a calorie. And one of the places where the calorie model falls down is that the type of calorie actually matters. It behaves differently in your body depending on what it is. And what we find is that sometimes it can be a perfectly healthy food, but you might have an intolerance to it. And we all know that lots of us are doing things that are not perfectly healthy, that are likely to be intolerant as well. And that intolerance, your body is basically using, it's saying the solution to pollution is dilution. So it is basically diluting that toxin by holding on to water. And that's that bloating that you're experiencing. And one of the reasons that we're so successful at getting the tummy area to get a lot flatter is because we're addressing inflammation with it. And so you are losing some water, but we've studied 9 months of data from our clients. And in that 9 months, what we actually found is that most of the change is actually in the fat. So that's where we see the biggest change. And we actually break down the fat versus muscle versus water change here. And what we typically see is that actually, so for someone like you that's experiencing that type of weight loss, actually probably a very good percentage of that is going to be fat. There is some water definitely that you're going to be losing as well because you're losing that inflammation. But normally in a 28-day program, we see across the board, whether our clients are at a healthy weight or they're in the obese category, we'll see 8 pounds of fat loss in just the 28 days. So that's really exciting for a lot of people, but more importantly, you'll also see just getting much denser and more slim in all the places that you really want. Yeah.
Yes, that is very rewarding because again, to get that instant gratification of seeing the shape change, and that's one of the things I remember you quoting on your site and in some of the talk that we've had. You're not talking about dozens or hundreds of people. You've had over 5,000 studies. And out of that, you've had really nearly 100% success rate in changing body composition.
That's correct. So when we studied our 9 months of data, we actually had 100% success rate of changing body composition in the 28 days. And most of our clients actually see change their first week. So it's really exciting how eating in this way makes such a big difference, but also they just feel so much better. And literally people will notice people will often comment on our clients like, wow, what are you doing? What's going on? Like, it shows because skin starts to improve. You start having more energy. I was laughing because one of our clients this week said she was cleaning out her refrigerator and had all this energy, and her kids were going, what is going on? But as she was cleaning everything out, she's like, I just have so much energy. It's amazing. I've gotten so much done. And I love that. I love hearing the stories like that, or the person that really digs into their business and has the energy to do things that have been piling up on their to-do list.
Yeah, and that's a great point because for me, most of my business is done at a home. When I do see clients, it's often in this format on video. So people are seeing from here up, but they can tell just from this, just again, the increased energy, the enthusiasm, even the clarity in conversation, it's very perceivable. And then people hear that and they want to know what's happening. So I get to tell them about it, and it's really fun. Like, oh, I want to know more. Also, we were talking about earlier about just being able to share it with your family and setting that example that I'm doing this for myself, and also to learn more about what you're offering. And it's just been fantastic. But one of the side effects is that my wife, buys most of our meals, and so we go out. We've been going out together to do some of the shopping. We downloaded your shopping list, and it's a lot of fun doing that stuff because you shop together and then cooking. Now the kids obviously eat what we eat, so I think that's a big part of it is being able to do it as a family is a lot of fun. And sometimes when you're doing something like a prepackaged weight loss program, it's something that you're buying by the meal, and so you're just buying it for one person, and then the rest of the family doesn't get any of those benefits.
Yeah, or we find, so especially if you're a busy entrepreneur that is the person that's prepping the meals, then all of a sudden you're cooking a separate meal for yourself or doing something prepackaged, and then the family's eating something else. What a pain. I mean, we want people to stop making 2 meals. We want people to make 1 meal and love it. And we find that families, all of the meals and suggestions that we make are really great options for families. And there's some really fantastic recipes that we include in there that we've had a lot of families test and really enjoy, but they're meant to be family friendly. so that you can actually just do one meal, not do the multiple meals. And we want families involved because we do think that nutrition is really important for kids, and they're not getting the right messages around how to eat more healthy. And we're seeing, obesity and diabetes, type 2 diabetes is on the rise at an absolutely alarming rate.
Well, and that's an interesting thing because my wife has a bachelor's degree in nutrition, and we've tried all types of diets leading up to having children. And then when our children were born, we just were naturally gravitated towards vegetables, and so they always ate them. But what about kids who may not have that background? Is there a way to kind of transition them into a healthier style?
Yeah, so there's some tricks that we use about adding a lot of flavor to things. And I think that we think of healthy food as having to be bland, but part of it is just thinking about food in a completely different way. And I have a good personal friend, and his son was, he's 21 at the time, and he came over for dinner. And this is a self-professed, does not like vegetables. And one of my favorite, super simple dishes to make is to just take cabbage, and you just core it, and you slice it into, about ½ inch thick, and you roast it, laying down on a pan with just a little bit of oil and then salt and pepper. It's so easy. It's really delicious. He ate so much of it. It was amazing. I thought I was going to have leftovers. I was wrong. And it was amazing. He loved it. So I think part of it is thinking about how do you add flavor to vegetables different ways. We love roasting. We love spices. We like thinking about things differently. Like we even have recipes for making creamy, delicious dressings in about 30 seconds. So our goal is make it easy. So one of the things that I always think is really important is being able to make meals in under 20 minutes or make lunches in under 3 that are going to be really family friendly and delicious. So I think it's just using food in a different way and expanding your horizons. This is not about what you're not eating. It's really about all of the other things that you're adding. And thinking about, oh my gosh, I didn't know I could use this in this way. I didn't know that I could use brewer's yeast and have it give it kind of a cheesy flavor, or other things like that that are really simple additions that kids will love.
I love that you talk about that, about it's not taking away, but it's actually what can you add, or even sometimes what can you replace? Because a lot of times, again, when you hear the word diet, you think of restriction. When you look at a health plan and you look at the menu that you provide and all of the shopping list, like, wow, I've never even heard of some of these foods, But you also just mentioned something about creamy, and it made me think about some of the things that are not on the typical paleo diet, like cheese. And that's one of the things my daughter loves, but I also think that she has an allergy to it. And you talk about being able to assess how people can tell if they have an allergy. What is the process for finding out what you're allergic to, and what are some of the replacements you can do?
Yeah, so you'll get to that in class 4, where it actually talks about how to do what we call blueprinting. And that helps you understand for your body, or you can teach your daughter to do it as well. What we're looking for, so there's an allergy, which is an actual IgG response. So that might be, swelling or hives or things like that are allergy responses. Intolerances are different, and intolerances are tricky. And what we want to do is help people identify the intolerances that they might be experiencing. And I will say that most people have an intolerance to dairy, whether they know it or not. And dairy in particular presents in symptoms like phlegm and mucus production. That's very common. I just talked to a guy who started his own business recently, and he goes, I'm getting up early, I'm lacking energy, and I don't know what's going on. And we talked a little bit about what he was doing. And he was drinking a lot of milk and doing a lot of whey proteins and things like that. And I said, hey, let's try pulling that out for you. And it was, even disrupting his sleep. And I think he's actually going to sleep a lot better and do better with that. But what we're looking for is symptoms that may range from mood all the way to bloating. So a good indicator is, have you ever eaten a food and, all of a sudden gained like a lot of weight, way more weight than is appropriate for the amount of food that you ate? I didn't eat 2 to 5 pounds of that. That is Oh, I lost sound.
Oh, I'm going to say, yeah, I wonder about that all the time, about how, like, if you eat a quarter pounder, you should only gain a quarter pound.
Right. So, and that's, it's your body actually holding on to inflammation where you're gaining all that weight. So that's actually a really good indicator that you are intolerant to that. But one of the things that makes it tricky is that it's not necessarily the thing that you just ate. It could be something that you ate up to 3 days earlier. So food intolerances are tricky, and doing the type of program you're doing actually gets you to the place where you can perfectly test. And you can do the same process with your daughter. And then one thing that is very interesting is cheese is unique. Different types of cheese, like cow's milk versus a sheep's milk, and different ages, sometimes people will do better or worse with. So we actually recommend testing different types of cheese, because you might find that a Parmesan she does fine with, but you may find that like a cheddar or something like that she doesn't, or a feta from sheep's milk is going to be different than a feta from cow's milk. So testing that and really refining her favorite cheeses is going to be helpful. Yeah.
And so you've mentioned a couple of different things that you could do with just still eating cheese, but with changing a little bit. Do you also have other ideas in there too about like creams? And because then you mentioned a salad dressing that you could whip up.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll tell you one of my favorite salad dressing recipes. It's really simple. You can go to the grocery store and get your favorite hummus. I recommend when you're looking for hummus, make sure it's not made with a canola oil. So look for a really nice, high quality hummus. And you can take hummus and apple cider vinegar and just thin it out with apple cider vinegar. And it makes a really beautiful, creamy dressing. I love it on a salad with like lentils and some red onions and things like that, and maybe some hard-boiled eggs. It's really tasty, and it gives it this heartier feel to it. So very simple, super delicious, and is much more of like it's a creamier salad dressing.
That sounds delicious. I think I saw that, but I haven't even used it yet. And I'm a big hummus fan. Our whole family, so we'll
oh yeah, you'll love that one. You can just dip vegetables in it too if you're doing like a mini meal. And one of the other favorite sources of creaminess, which I love to recommend clients do in their shakes, is actually coconut milk. The cooking coconut milk in the can, the smaller one, and get the full fat. The light just has extra water. You're just paying more for less, and we want you actually using that full fat. And you can do all kinds of interesting things, from making a paleo ice cream that's really smooth and creamy using that, making your shakes smooth and creamy, even making a faux Alfredo with using that sauce. So it's really about just playing with things and thinking about it differently.
We actually have been using the coconut milk. We did I think we did the Alfredo, one of the chicken Alfredo dishes, and
nice
curry. It's been delicious.
Oh, good. So glad.
Now, I want to actually, something that keeps popping up in my mind is that we've talked a lot about food, and obviously food is an important part of it. One of the things that some people talk about is the emotional side and the energetic side, the spiritual energy, the non-measured, or it is measurable, but something that beyond just the physical energy. How does that play into the Cambiati wellness program?
Yeah, so there obviously we hold a lot of emotions around our weight, and as you mentioned very early on the call, we spend so much time beating ourselves up for it. So we're really big fans. One of the things we talk about in the ebook that's on the free gift is throwing out your scale. So part of it is that we spend so much negative energy and self-talk on our weight or the decisions we've made around food, and we really want to release people from that. The way we look at it is that, like so you did your wine and your bagel and lox. That's really just information. It's not bad or good, and I think releasing that judgment. So we try to release blame, shame, and punishment around food. we really want people to feel comfortable with their choices and also be really clear about where they want to live and what's important. And we have our clients connect to a bigger why, because it's not about weight loss. It's about a bigger picture than that. For me, my why is around, my health and my family's health and, my dad. And for most people, there is a bigger why. A lot of times for entrepreneurs, it's, oh, well, I want the energy, or I want to feel comfortable in my clothes. I don't feel confident. I feel not confident going out for the speaking engagement, or I don't want to close this client, or man, I'm out, not able to buy new clothes because I continue to gain weight and I don't want to spend the money. And I think that all goes back to how we feel about ourselves and our self-image. And we, from an energetic perspective, we're putting in all of that negative self-talk. And so one of our big goals at Cambiati is to release that, release the weight obsession. It is not about weight. Huck that scale. And it's really about connecting into your deeper needs for your body and getting to know thyself. Really deeply connecting with what your body needs from a nutrient standpoint. And that, I think, is critically important. And then there are also, in some of our graduate level classes, we talk more about how to release some of those hooks from an emotional standpoint, because it really is, about more than just weight.
No, I really appreciate that, and that reminds me, I can weigh myself after the first week just to see how it was going, and then I did it again today to make sure that I was still on track. I will put the scale away for 2 weeks, and I'll let you know how I am in 2 weeks from now.
So, Mark, here's one of my favorite things to do on a scale. You can take a Post-it and you can put your goal weight over the top of where the scale reading is. And that way you can hop on the scale and you can look at that. That's what I weigh, and get all excited instead of looking at it and going, oh, I'm not at my target. So I love that technique, because I want people to really feel good about it and not shame themselves for where they are.
That's so important. I really think that the self-worth is one of the values that I have for myself that I'm working on. So I really want to help other people with that, and beating yourself up over the number or any of it, what you're eating. That's really, really important. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that's interesting for me is that you've been doing this for how many years have you had your physical center?
6 years.
6 years, and it's been a physical center, but now you're bringing this program so that people can do it online.
Yeah.
That creates a lot of different challenges, and I've been able to go through some of them myself. Having access to you is really, really helpful, and I'm sure people in the program get that. But
you do.
What are some of the differences or the challenges or the opportunities with being able to do it online?
Yeah, so we've been doing online programs for quite some time. I think part of it comes down to when people are really ready, they do well on any kind of a program. One of the things that's different is we really developed a sense of community here, and that's harder to do online. And of course, I don't get to physically connect with people where they're able to, just see and meet, and, they might come in and just say, hey, I'm struggling with this, Rebecca, help me out. But we strive to have that kind of high touch with the classes, where we'll send out, if we know when someone's starting, we'll send out a series of emails connecting with them and trying to get them to engage with us so that we can work on it. But we find that people are really successful online. So we have a family that recently did it, and I was so excited because he sent back his results, and they really didn't engage too much with us, despite my calls and emails, but they got amazing results. So he lost 44 pounds, which is amazing. His son lost 18 pounds, and his wife lost weight as well, but I can't for the life of me remember how much she lost, but it was
this is in 28 days.
This is in 28 days. So now his weight loss, I will say, exceptional. But it's really exciting. And for men, it's different than it is for women. It's not uncommon. We have lots of male clients that will lose between 17 and 30 pounds in that period. It's not unheard of. Hormones help. So I think one of the things that we really strive for is trying to develop that sense of support, and we're here for you. And if you have questions or struggling with something, we're actually there to support you. And I think while a little bit tougher to do online, that's what we really strive for. And our clients have been getting really good results online. And we've had the programs online for several years, so we've been testing it for a long time before we released it into the wild.
And what I love is that I was a little bit overwhelmed when I first started because of the amount of information that you provide, the amount of resources that you provide, having that journal to be able to kind of track for myself, and it just kind of keeps me connected and everything else. So it might seem a little overwhelming the first day, but then all of a sudden I'm like, oh wow, I have this question. I'm like, oh yeah, I can just look at my shopping list, or
yeah,
all of those different pieces of it are very, very helpful. And do you do that same stuff with, I guess, when your clients come in, you give them the shopping list and the menus?
Yeah. When they come in, they get an actual binder of all of those items, but we literally take the exact same things. And I would say it's a common experience. Sometimes what we tell clients is you don't have to get it all. We have 5 weeks to get it together. So just, do the simple things first. Do your grocery shopping with the list, kind of get prepared your first week, stumble around. It's okay, because in the coming weeks, you're going to really develop skills. And it's really about developing skills that you can take with you for a lifetime, because it's not just a 28-day program. It's really about making some lifestyle changes. So it's about developing some skills along the way. And you'll find that just over time, you'll develop more and more of those skills, and it will become a lot easier.
But as you were saying that, it reminded me that we've talked about a lot about the food, and it's not just about, like you said, not all calories are created equal.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is the chemistry and all these other pieces. We talked about the emotional side of it, the energetic side of it. The other part is the physical exercise. You have a very unique take on it. That was another challenge area for me. I was like, it was bursticizing.
Yep. So we are actually, and the ebook goes into this in greater detail, but we call the running on a for 20 minutes or a cardio catastrophe, because it actually is sending the wrong hormonal message to your body and can cause you to even gain weight. And what we really want is we want you to be more efficient at burning fat. So we actually recommend a workout that is 12 minutes a week. And that's really going to get you better results than doing a lot of cardio. So your workouts do not have to be long. They just have to fall into that Tabata protocol that we talk about. And I think the really exciting thing about it is that you can do a burst doing almost anything. And for our clients that don't love exercise, most of our clients make no changes at all to their exercise and still lose weight. So that exercise is actually not a requirement of our program. However, we do really believe in exercise. We think it's really important. We have a great partner that we recommend who actually specializes in exercise. But we love seeing people incorporate it because it does help with serotonin and just also physically being more toned, and of course, sleep and all of the other great things that exercise can support. So that's our philosophy on exercise, which, yeah, is a little bit different.
Well, it was interesting for me because 2 weeks before I actually started the program, I was kind of working into it, and then I tried a couple of the burst-sizes for myself, and I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm not getting enough out of it. And then you explained to me that in that 1 minute, push a little bit harder, and now I feel so energized. But for me, it's more than that. Like when I do my workouts in the past, it's been 45-minute workout, and just getting that chunk of time for me is difficult. And then you kind of dread it, like, oh, how am I going to squeeze this in?
Yeah.
But I also don't get as energized. Like I leave here and I don't feel exhausted. I feel really, really charged up. And now I feel like, oh my gosh, this is a great break. Now I only have to do this 20-minute burst, and it's amazing.
Yeah, and it's great because I think busy entrepreneurs are just finding the time to work out. That's one of the first things that I see goes. But you can actually do it doing all kinds of other things that you're probably doing on a regular basis. I teach the women in my program really love the burst I do, which I will admit to you is I actually do it dancing. I'm not a very good dancer, but I really enjoy it. So you can do it doing anything that you love. And because it's so short, you know, you can work it into your morning getting ready routine. It's not something that has to be this big Herculean effort where you're feeling like, oh, I've got to make it to the gym, and you know, I have this whole other list of things I need to accomplish today, and then that's the thing that falls off. It's just really simple to actually incorporate in.
Yeah, and I do it with running, and I hate running. So when I have to force myself to run for 20 minutes or half an hour or 40 minutes, it's like it kills me. So to be able to run for 4 minutes, it makes me enjoy it, and I'm outside and getting air, and so I'm enjoying that a lot more.
Nice, love it.
So one of the things, actually going back real quick, going to energy, I said I feel a lot more energy doing this. Are there other things, going back to the food, that can help us to get more focus and energy, just from the diet part of it, what we're eating?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Changing what you're doing for your food automatically, you know, we've all had that experience where you've eaten a food and you all of a sudden get really tired, some heavy meal, and it sometimes can be very marked for people. And you're kind of weighing yourself down with not the best food choices on a continual basis. So when you actually change your food and the way that it serves your body, you just naturally get a lot more energy. And then that also is, to your point earlier, affecting your sleep. You'll find that sleep comes more easily as I'm a recovered insomniac, and so I can say that it made a huge difference in my life being able to sleep. But it really actually has a lot to do with how you're fueling your body, that real energy that you're getting and that lift that you're experiencing. Just has to do with simply what you're changing, where you're pulling out the things that are intolerant. It can cause you to be exhausted. And then also not using food as the tool to kind of lift yourself back up. I mean, I think a lot of us, as we're trying to go, like a lot of people around that, 2, 3, 4 o'clock afternoon, that's when we go for the coffee or the sweet or something like that. But long term, that really isn't going to serve us because we're going to crash later. And when we're balancing our hormones, you're not having that tendency to do that as much. So that's one of our goals, to avoid some of the high glycemic crashes that people are typically experiencing.
Well, as you were talking about that, it kind of made me think about it, what a perfect segue that is into my next question, which was, you talked about the crash, that a lot of times you'll eat something, and the perfect example a lot of people think about was Thanksgiving, and that after Thanksgiving everybody just sits around the couch and they're tired, and the old belief was that was about tryptophan in the turkey, when really I think it's more about the carbo, the over carbs. Is that true?
Yeah. That's what data is showing. It's showing that it's less connected to the tryptophan and more connected to the other things we're eating. And I think actually, not only are we having the sugar crash, but we're also a lot of people in that are eating things that they're probably intolerant to. When you think about it, a lot of people are having breads with it, in addition to a lot of sugar, and we're doing all kinds of things like corn-based foods, and corn can be very problematic for a lot of people. And then we're having lots of dairy, and so all of those things that can be commonly problematic, we put a lot of those in that specific meal. And so I think that becomes challenging for people, and that's part of the crash that they're experiencing. And I also do think it's really important that people enjoy their food, and that they not feel guilty, by the way, about enjoying the Thanksgiving dinner. But it is about, how do you support yourself both before and after that meal, and then make your decisions about what you're really going to do. If you don't love something, then, make the decision before you get there not to eat it. And then those things that you love, give yourself permission to do those things. But what we find is that it's kind of like this slippery slope of all of a sudden you're off to the races with crazy food after Thanksgiving, and then there are all the holiday parties. So I think that's something that people struggle with. But my biggest piece of advice is, don't beat yourself up, but just try to make sure you support yourself before and after.
Well, you mentioned the holidays, and the holidays are coming up for us
Yeah.
here in the United States. So I want to talk a little bit about that, and then you have the ebook is three mistakes that three so-called healthy habits that can
Yep.
actually help you gain weight. I don't know if we want to give everything away that's in the book, or talk a little bit about that. But before we get into some of those misconceptions, going into the holidays, we kind of blow out the normal healthy eating. It seems like people really start to get healthy in January. All of a sudden they get on this 1 month of healthiness, and then all of a sudden they kind of wean away, and then it's summertime. They're like, oh, got to get into a bathing suit again. Then they get healthy again. Are there merits to working now before going into the holiday season to kind of get in shape?
Yes. Oh my gosh, there are huge benefits to doing that because an ounce of prevention, right? So a big part of that is really understanding how, and you can build your plate just a little bit differently on Thanksgiving, and it can make a really big difference. But also developing some of those skills. Like one of the things that ebook is it's about the mistakes that we make that we think are healthy. So a lot of my clients come to me and they have done all kinds of programs. And they have tried everything, and they're stuck. But what we find is that they're actually mistaken about a lot of what is actually healthy, because we just have so many marketing messages that are really muddying the real health benefits of foods and what types of foods are healthy. And so we want to just pull the covers off of that, take the hype out of it, and really look at what is the case for what's actually healthy. And there are absolutely huge benefits to understanding that before you go into the holidays, because it can help you avoid some of the mistakes and the weight gain that you're going to experience during the holidays. And food can really impact mood. So one of the things that I also think is very helpful is going into the holidays with a lot of energy and going into the holidays feeling really good is going to be helpful for your life in general. But I also think having that ability to get back up and really be set up to be successful after that, and know some of the skills to get back up and some of the tricks to support yourself before that meal are critically important, because you can actually increase your metabolism so that you're better able to handle some of the things that you're actually doing. And you'll also find that as you start doing this, like you've experienced, you said, you used to eat at night and you've been able to stop that without it being difficult. And one of the things we want people to be able to do is develop some of the healthy habits so that then they're only doing, maybe one thing out of the box, and not, just adding another couple holiday meals and parties that are making it all that much worse. I mean, we all want great holiday photos, and we don't want to look at that holiday photo in January and go, oh my gosh, is that me? What happened? So starting early is definitely the better part of valor.
Well, there's some other specific questions that come up there for me, but you were talking about some of the misconceptions out there, and especially with, you said, marketing. They market things like low fat or 0 calories. One of the things I've heard recently about 0 calories with 0 calorie sodas is that you can actually gain more fat from eating 0 calorie soda.
Oh my gosh, completely. So, and that goes back to some of the intolerance issues earlier, but also your body uses fat to protect itself, fat and also water to protect itself. So that's part of why we're seeing that. But low fat typically means a couple of things to me. So fat is your friend. And the right type of fat and in the right proportions is really important. And the low fat, what typically happens is to replace that flavor, it's commonly going to be higher in sugar. So that's going to be one issue with the low fat side of things. And the other problem with low fat is that I think, I talk about this in the ebook, that people get caught in the trap of the counting calories and, oh, but it only has so many calories, but you're missing what's actually happening in your body when you're intaking something like that. And one of my goals is to see people really focusing on the things that are right. There are companies that have gotten sued because they were claiming they had lots of probiotic health benefits, and turns out they didn't have that many health benefits because the probiotic amount was really low. You hear that a lot around yogurt. And that's really a mistake. And we even get clients who come in here. Doctors will recommend clients to us, and we of course get clients who've been seeing doctors for anything from diabetes to blood pressure, cholesterol. And what we find is that the messages they're getting, even from their doctors are so confused about how to actually eat healthy. It's really sad.
Well, it's funny that you say that even doctors sometimes are confused, and they're learning new things and changing things all the time in the medical industry. But when you think about the history of food, that the United States was taught how to eat by the people who produced meat and dairy.
Yeah.
They're the ones who created our diet for us.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, the dairy subsidies are alive and well, and their politics around what are driving what we're told to eat, and then of course what doctors are taught about how to eat healthy, and that's really problematic. And we talk about teaching kids. Unfortunately, that's permeated, even the new food principles that are being taught in school. And I think it's really important to start looking at, fat is not the enemy. It absolutely is not. And we love an enemy, but really fat is not your enemy, and it can be really helpful. If you remove fat, you're not going to feel full. And part of that is making sure that you're feeling full and also giving your body the right fuels that it needs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we've covered a lot of information, and I don't want people to leave too full, but
Yeah.
I do want them to be able to come back and get more. Again, you can go to get the book by just clicking on the link right below, or if you go to inspiredmessengersnetwork.com/healthy, you'll learn more about the 3 so-called healthy habits that actually can make you fat.
Make you gain weight.
Make you gain weight. Okay. And also, you do also do training webinars, free webinars that people could be invited to if they download that. And
Yeah.
how else can they connect with you?
They also can apply for a complimentary consultation, which is something I'll do special just for your clients, Mark. So the way to actually connect with us on doing that is download the ebook and then register for the webinar. When they register for the webinar, we'll reach out to them if they provide. All they have to do is provide a phone number. When they do that, we'll reach out and we'll offer them a complimentary consultation so that they can connect with us. And of course, they can see us on myacceleratedweightloss.com.
myacceleratedweightloss.com.
Yeah.
Fantastic, Rebecca. Well, again, I feel like you are a huge wealth of information, and there's just so much more that we could cover and talk about. We could do it for hours. Is there anything else that you'd like to share before we say goodbye?
Oh, I just thank you so much for having me, Mark. It's been such a pleasure, and I'm really excited about just getting the message out there. Really important. So, and I'm hoping that the ebook is really helpful for a lot of your clients as well.
Well, thank you. I know it's been very, very helpful for me. I appreciate all your support. I think that's one of the big things, is that a lot of times people will start something and not get the support to keep going and make it through, because it's not just this 28 days. This is a lifestyle, and I appreciate everything that you're doing. Yeah,
you're so welcome. Well, thank you so much, Mark.
You're absolutely welcome. And thank you, everyone, for watching. We appreciate that you are looking to take care of yourself. We know that you're a giver and a beaming light in the world, but if you can't take care of yourself, you're not going to be fully able to help others. So be sure to keep looking out for yourself. Remember that you are a beacon of light in the world. Keep shining brightly. Namaste.